If you're listening to this podcast, it means you're ready, no, more than ready, to have a major breakthrough in your business. You're hungry for change and you're hungry for growth, and that's why you're feeding your mind right now with all this valuable information. But to drive those changes, to be really smart about what you're doing and to make the right choices before you take massive action, you need help from someone who's been there, someone who's going to coach you through it, even just someone to get you started on your journey. That's why Tony Robbins is offering a free one-to-one business strategy session from one of his top business coaches, a $600 value, completely free, no strings attached. That's right. If you're listening right now, you can go to tonyrobbins.com/CEO and sign up for a free session with a member of Tony's team who's helped business owners like yourself overcome their obstacles and set them on the path to success. When you set a goal, what do you focus on? Odds are you put most of your energy toward how you will achieve the results you're after. But what if you shifted that focus from the how to the when? What if timing was that important? What if good timing could not only enhance your performance, it could actually give you the edge that you need to achieve your goal? Hey guys, welcome back to the peak performance season of the Tony Robbins podcast. I'm Annie York, editorial director of RRI. Today, we have a very special guest, the New York Times bestselling author and one of the most influential business minds of our time, Daniel Pink. Dan is widely regarded as one of the foremost thinkers in behavioral sciences. He's upended conventional wisdom about what gives people drive and motivation. He's challenged the value that society places on left brain over right brain skills. And he's dispelled preconceived notions about what really makes a great salesman. His latest work is no exception. In When, The Scientific Secrets of Perfect Timing, Dan offers profound insight into the importance of timing and why most businesses and most employees really get it wrong. Dan and I sit down and discuss the science behind timing, how it impacts your cognitive abilities, your mood, even your entire state. And he reveals the secrets of how good timing can help you become the most efficient, most effective version of yourself. We talk about how business owners can leverage the time of day to create an optimal working environment for their employees. Consider this episode a wake-up call so that you can not only gain more clarity on why it's not just about what you are doing, it's really about when you are doing it that can make all the difference, letting you become the best version of yourself at work and at home. Dan, welcome to the Tony Robbins podcast. We're so pleased to have you.
It's great to be here.
So I want to start off with, something that Tony says at his business event. He talks a lot about the tyranny of how, and he uses this as an example. Yeah, have you heard it? He uses it as an example of how we forget to focus on our why, our purpose, right? People, they skip the strategy and they just get right to the tactics. What's interesting is that no one ever seems to think about the when. But you did, right? So when's the right timing for something? Not just looking for a new job or making some other sort of change, but when is the best time to do certain types of tasks? So from my understanding, it seems that you were looking for some answers to that question and you couldn't find any. So you decided to find them yourself. Can you tell us a little bit more about your exploration into timing?
Sure. Well, you've got it exactly right. That is, we make all kinds of when decisions in our life. Everything from when should I start a business? When should I stop a project that's not working? When in the day should I exercise? When should I do this kind of work? When should I do that kind of work? And I, like many people, was making them in a very ill-informed way. And I said, there's got to be a better way to make these decisions. And I looked around for guidance. It didn't exist. And then I looked around at the science. And it turns out there is a huge amount of science on the question of timing. The problem is that it's spread all over the place. So you have economists looking at this, you have social psychologists looking at this, you have microbiologists looking at this, you have an entire field called chronobiology, you have physicians, you have anesthesiologists, endocrinologists, all asking very similar questions but not talking to each other. So what I did is looked at the breadth of this research to try to crack the code, to figure out what does the science tell us, not our intuition, not our guesswork, not folklore, about when we should do things. And for me, just personally, it was a huge, huge eye-opener.
So can you describe, because one of the things you really start out strong, just talking about people and a single day, right? So there's patterns throughout the day. Can you explain a little bit about peak, trough, and recovery?
Absolutely. So here's what we know from the science. we tend to move through the day in 3 stages: peak, as you say, a trough, and a recovery. Most people, about 80% of us, move through the day in that order: peak early in the day, trough in the early to mid afternoon, and then the recovery late afternoon and early evening. Now, about 20% of us, people who are night owls, we can talk more about that later, they're much more complicated. But for them, the key is that their peak is later in the day. Now, here's what we know. The most important takeaway, at least for me, the most important insight, at least for me in this research was this: our brain power, our cognitive abilities do not remain static over the course of the day. They change. They change in predictable ways. They can change in dramatic ways. So what's important is doing the right kind of work during each of these stages. And what the research tells us very clearly is this: during the peak, which for most of us is early in the day, mornings essentially, that's when we are most vigilant. Vigilance means we're able to bat away distractions. That means that during the peak, we should be doing what social psychologists call analytic work, work that requires heads down, focus, and attention. Writing a report, analyzing data, carefully going over the steps of a strategy. During the trough, that's the middle of the day, that is a very bad time of day. We can talk about some of the evidence showing what a terrible time of day this is in healthcare, in corporate performance, in traffic accidents. But during this low period of the day, we should be doing our administrative work, work that doesn't require massive brain power or creativity. And then during the recovery, which again, for most of us is late in the day and early in the afternoon, just so happens the time that you and I are speaking, that's when it's a very interesting time. Our mood is pretty good, but our vigilance is not. And that makes it a good time for things like brainstorming, for things involving iteration and creativity, what social psychologists call insight problems. And if we do the right work at the right time, analytic work during the peak, administrative work during the trough, insight work during the recovery, it makes a material difference in our performance. So much so, this is a fact that just blew me away. About 20% of the variance, in how people perform on the job. That is, if we look at, some people perform better than others. Why is that? Right? All kinds of reasons. Some people are smarter than others. Some people are more conscientious than others. Some people have more social advantage than others. When we look at the variance and how people perform, we can explain 20% of it through time of day.